That's right. Born free, motherfuckers. Born free. Now, today's stream is going to be a little out of the ordinary because it's basically an interview that William Cooper had with one of his CAGI members who infiltrated the Freemasonic Lodge and came back to report using a fake name. The name is very real. It belonged to a gentleman who actually existed who wrote about the Freemasons and apparently was murdered by them for revealing secrets. So the CAGI member, the Bill Cooper reporter, uses his name as his undercover name so that nobody knows who he is. Once again, as always, the opinions expressed here are those of William Cooper and his reporter here, William Morgan, and not necessarily my opinions. Believe it or not, there are a lot of things William Cooper believed that I have problems with. Believe it or not. And there might be some truth to some allegations about his personal life. But that doesn't change the fact that the information is real or true. It doesn't change that. Sort of like you can have a prostitute witness a crime. If she's seen a crime happen, that's all that matters. Who gives a shit if she's a prostitute if she was witnessing the murder and can tell you who did it? You ain't gonna say, well, we can't go by her because she's a prostitute. See? In a court of law, a witness is a witness. So once again, I'm reading out of William Cooper's Mystery Babylon series transcribed. And since it is an interview, Cooper will be asking the questions and William Morgan will be answering. So when I say WM, that's William Cooper. And when I say, actually, it's the opposite. When I say WC, that's William Cooper. And when I say WM, that's William Morgan. So without further ado, here we go. Let's see how this works. William Morgan interview part 1. You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm your host, William Cooper. Now, I'm going to put a little humor in here. I just talked to Craig Smith at Swiss America Trading, and he told me they're issuing 3 new bonds. The Bush bond with 0% interest, the Quayle bond with, of course, no maturity, and the Clinton bond with no principal. Now that's funny, and we can appreciate a little joke. But at the same time, there's a lot of truth in what I just told you. There is no confidence in this administration. No world leader has emerged, and in Bill Clinton, the United States of America may be the only superpower left on this earth to those who want to believe that. But as we're disarming, as we have taken our B-52 bombers off alert and are now scrapping them, and by the way, this is the early 90s, okay, for those of you wondering. As we are dismantling our Minutemen missiles, as we are paring down our military forces, no such equivalent is taking place in Russia or any of the satellites that used to make up the Soviet Union. So, folks, you may buy all of this baloney about the United States being the last great superpower, but I'm telling you right now, we are not. And if we continue on the road that we are on, not only are we going to have a financial collapse, but we are going to find ourselves a third-rate, third-world country very quickly, and you better believe it. It's happening around you right now. It is August 12th, 2025. And in my socialist state of New Jersey, it's happening. I see it right in front of my goddamn face. If you don't, you must live in La La Land, fantasy land. See, a lot of y'all drive around in your cars and look straight forward. Don't look around where you're driving through. You just go from home to your job or home to the supermarket, and you go back and forth, and you don't look around where you're living. You don't look around where you're living. You just go straight back and forth. You look forward. You don't look around. I walk the streets. I see it right in my face. I look around. And this is becoming a third world cesspool. Word is bond, word is bond, word is bond. Now, those of you who want to live in La La Land and fantasy land, keep driving back and forth. Don't look around. Concentrate only on your own yards and property. But the next thing you know, you're going to be in a socialist fucking country. I don't have to go to the third world. I'm right here, motherfuckers. I'm right here. And if we continue on the road that we are on, not only are we going to have a financial collapse, but we are going to find ourselves a third-rate, third-world country very quickly. All you have to do is look around. Stop buying the propaganda. Use your own brain. Your own eyes and ears, and take a hard look at what's happening. And you don't have to be very smart at all to understand that we're going in the wrong direction. Now, what this means for you personally is everything that you worked for, you're going to lose. You're going to lose unless you take action now. Those who already taken action are already realizing an appreciation of their investments. Now you have to understand that it's not a real appreciation, because as the price of gold and silver and coins have gone up, the value of the dollar has gone down and will continue to go down. What you're doing when you make these investments is you're protecting your assets, and believe me, in what is coming, that is the best that you can hope for at this time on your level. Now, I'm not gonna give this number because I don't even know if this company is still in business. So talk to the experts there and let them show you how to protect yourself while you're at it. Mention my name, William Cooper, and they'll send you a free newsletter chock full of information that you need to know. It doesn't cost you anything to call and talk to them. They have many different investments, many that I have recommend, some that I have not, some that I do not recommend, some that I don't know anything about. Call now. The time to act is now. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until you lose everything. In the process of saving yourself and protecting your assets, you will be saving this show and freedom for the world. You'll be glad that you did. Okay, now we can start the nitty-gritty. Ladies and gentlemen, you are living in the last days of freedom for the common man. So many people tell me that they are just one person and there is nothing that they can do, that everything is lost, and all they can do is wait and see what happens. This program tonight is designed specifically to let you know that that is not true. There is a virtual army of people, individuals acting independently on their own. CAGI members across this nation and around the world who are affecting great change and who are providing a flow of information that we, through this program and through our newsletter and organization, feed to the world. These men and women are unknown and prefer to stay that way. They are my heroes. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to have as my special guest today William Morgan, who is one of the members of the Citizens Agency for Joint Intelligence and has been for some time. Now, that's all that we can tell you about his identity. You will hear from his own story what he's been doing, how he's been doing it, what kind of information he has collected for our organization, for the citizens of this country and of the world. And we're going to talk about it. Well, I guess you just have to call it undercover operations. This man has been undercover for the Citizens Agency for Joint Intelligence. And I remember several episodes of the show before, sometime during the series that we call the Mystery Schools, which we've done. I believe 19 hours of broadcasting covering that subject. I told you that we had infiltrated the lodge, the Mystery Schools, Mystery Babylon. In fact, we have not only infiltrated it once, but many times in this country and in lodges around the world. So the information that we're giving you on the Mystery Schools is not conjecture. It does not come from a bunch of people sitting around making up information. It comes from the books printed by the Mystery Schools themselves. It comes from our members who are actually in the lodge, and we check, double check everything that they bring to us. Please welcome to the hour of the time, William Morgan. And once again, when I'm reading as Cooper, I'm going to be saying, I'll say WC. When I'm responding as William Morgan, WM. WM. Thank you, Bill. You can call me Will. And I really appreciate that gracious and honorable introduction. WC. Well, we're constantly appreciative of everything that you've done. Tell us, Will, how long have you been associated with the mystery schools? WM. For over 2 years now. I became a Mason in June of 1991. WC. And what happened? How did you ever even know about Freemasonry? WM. At first, before I was exposed to your information, I was under the impression, as most people are, that they were a philanthropic organization dealing mostly with charity, or possibly even some associated with unions. And as most CAGI members have come to know, that is entirely not the case. WC. Did you have friends who were Freemasons? WM. Yes, I worked with somebody who was a Freemason, and I've come to find out that that is usually the most common way that a person is exposed to the craft, as they call it. WC. So they call it the craft amongst themselves? This is not something that the public is not normally aware. What does the craft mean? What does that term mean? WM. Well, they consider themselves craftsmen because they are building something. And there have been many organizations throughout history with the incredible similarities to the present modern cult of Freemasonry that have called themselves builders. Common scenes. They have associated with themselves always with the erection of the structure or the building of something that people just do not understand. We have come to understand that what they are erecting is the New World Order, and they've been working on it for thousands and thousands of years. So for those of y'all thinking this shit is new, nope. Long time. WC. That's correct. Now, did your friend or friends try to proselytize you or talk you into joining the lodge? WM. No, not at all. I must admit, I did go to them, and I was not entirely aware of the nature of their organization or of what was in store for me when I became a member, or brother, as they call it. WC. Now, if you had not joined CAGI, would you still be sort of in the dark about the true meaning of Freemasonry? Or do the members really learn the truth about the organization during their period of time? WM. Had I joined CAGI, I would be as empty-headed and as trusting as sheeple as most of the Freemasons in America and across the world today. Or I'm gonna correct this. It looks like a typo, and it forgot to say not. So let me repeat it. Had I not joined CAGI, I would be as empty-headed and as trusting as sheeple as most of the Freemasons in America and across the world are today. They are not taught what the craft is about. They do not question authority at all. They, as a rule, and from my personal experience and observation, They obey the rules without question and to the letter. And that was WM talking. WC. Now, a lot of people out there are going to wonder, and I know that Freemasons are going to bring this up, that if you didn't learn what you now believe that you know about the mystery schools in the lodge, how do you know that you've learned while you became a Kaji member? Rather, let me repeat that. How do you know that what you've learned while you became a Kaji member, how do you know that that is true? WM. Well, because I can verify for myself. I can get up and check the facts and look again to verify what is going on about the mystery schools. But for what the Masons claim to be, they have absolutely no proof or evidence or even works of their own hand to prove that they are actually involved in charity work. WC. Now, when you began to study, you were studying actually from two sources. You were studying the mystery religion in the lodge, actually, and you were studying what you were learning from the Citizens Agency for Joint Intelligence in trying to rectify the two or bring the two together and make it fit. When did you finally decide that what you were learning in the lodge was really a deception? WM. The absolute clincher for me, what absolutely decided for me to become a shadow of a doubt, and yes, I had my suspicions since I had very first become a member. You don't take blood oath, kneeling before an altar, swearing yourself to secrecy for all time without the group you're becoming a member of being, suspect. WC. But you did take these blood oaths? WM. Yes, sir. I took all of them, and there were many. WC. And so, by the time you reach the degree level that you are at now, you've taken approximately how many oaths? WM. I don't even recollect. I don't even recollect. I know that there were over 24 oaths before you could even become a Master Mason in a Blue Lodge of Freemasonry, which is a bit like primary school for Freemasons. The Blue Lodge is where they are brought in as new members from off the street. And most men who are involved in Masonry for their lifetimes consider the Blue Lodge to be the heart and soul of Masonry because that is where it all begins. And that is where it all grows from. Now, let me stop here and say, now with that knowledge, I want you to Google or go to YouTube and look for a video. It's the John Ackenberg show, where John Ackenberg and a man by the name of Dr. Martin are having a debate with a Freemason. There's a version where they show you the whole show, and then there's another version where they show you the show in 3 parts. That man is a Blue Lodge Mason, and what I just read explains his ignorance. So if you haven't watched it, look for John Ackenberg show if it's still up, because they might have took it down by now. Look for the John Ackenberg show with Dr. Martin and a Freemason. And maybe I can give you the link to that. John Ackenberg Show, Freemason. Okay, I found the whole show. It's called Can a Christian Be a Freemason? The John Ackenberg Show, 1985. And the channel is called FW1 Freemasonry Watch. Again, you need to watch the video. Can a Christian be a Freemason? The John Ackenberg Show, 1985. And that is the reason that the Freemason on this show, supposed Freemason, is in the dark to a lot of the information that John Ackenberg and Dr. Martin give him. Because he's in Blue Lodge. And according to this, what is Blue Lodge again? Blue Lodge of Freemasonry, which is a bit like primary school for Freemasons. The Blue Lodge is where they are brought in as new members from off the street. And most men who are involved in Masonry for their lifetimes consider the Blue Lodge to be the heart and soul of Masonry, because that is where it all begins. And that is where it all grows from. So Blue Lodge is like a primary school. WC. But isn't it true that many Masons never advance beyond the 3rd degree and remain in the Blue Lodge forever? WM. That is absolutely true. Whether or not as they do not choose to go forth, or whether they're totally unaware there is anywhere to go. It's up to personally the Mason that's involved. But many of them stay right where they're at and seem to be content with what they have. WC. That's William Cooper talking now. So these Master Masons who claim that they know everything about Freemasonry and that they've been a Master Mason for 20 years, do they really know anything? WM, William Morgan talking now. They know absolutely nothing. They have been completely deceived from the very first day they entered the lodge. They have been lied to regularly about the nature of the craft, the work of the craft, and the charity of the craft. My own lodge, that I'm a member of, considers its charity work for the entire last year to be a donation of $100, which is a little more than the dues yearly for 3 members. They gave $100 to a needy family, and through these very, very shallow, superficial acts, they consider themselves to be the greatest charity and brotherhood organizations that has ever walked on the face of the earth. WC. A recent thorough investigation of the Shriners, who have literally made their reputation upon the fact that they contribute tremendous amounts of money to charity, but the investigation disclosed that all of the money they take in, less than 3% actually goes to any charity. Were you aware of that? WM. No, actually, I was not. I'm not a member of the Shrine, but I have been exposed to some of their numbers. I was hoping that it would at least a little bit higher than that, because that says bad things about the Masons who are members of the Shrine. And as most people know, the Shrine is probably one of the largest charity organizations that there is. And let me stop and pause right here and tell you, think twice now before, I'm sorry to say this, before you donate to St. Jude. Unfortunately, the Shriners are involved in that organization. They're involved in that charity. So before you give any money to the Shriners, just remember, what does it says here? And this is back in the 90s. Less than 3% actually goes to any charity. Think about that. WC. And one of the richest. But most of the money seems to go back into the lodge, or to the members, or to their retirement funds, or to the payment of the lodge officers. And this is something people don't realize, that the lodge officers are paid and they have a retirement fund set aside for them. Is that true? WM, yes, that is true. Now, this doesn't apply directly to all officers in the lodge. I myself am an officer of the lodge that I was indoctrinated into, duly elected member. They operate in that kind of manner with elected officials that serve 1-year terms. But there is an exception to this rule, and that is the secretary and the treasurer. And the secretary keeps the books, and the treasurer keeps the money, and that points a very big finger as to where the true power in every lodge lies. Because these two gentlemen who held these offices usually hold them for years and years and years. WC. And they're not elected and they're not accountable? Is that correct? WM. They are totally unaccountable. They, the treasurer, will give one budget report at a certain time during the year. And I listened to this report not 2 months ago. And if an account in the business world attempted to give such a superfluous report to his boss, he would be fired on the spot. WC. Now, just so our listening audience realizes that you're not just some Yahoo who walked in off the street and went through the first degree and are now on a radio program trying to tell them you know something about Freemasonry. What is the level of your status or your degree, or how high have you been, or how high have you progressed through the initiatory levels? WM. It's not exactly something that any thinking individual would like to brag about, but I have shot like a rocket up the ranks of Freemasonry, much like in America today. The Mason like to keep their members busy. They don't want to give them time to think about what they're doing. And they don't want to give them time to think about what they're going and they don't want to give them time to think about where they're going. They do this by ritual. All of Freemasonry is tied up in ritual, and you must memorize this ritual, and it is very, very extensive. Each office has its own whole slew of ritual to remember. But I worked hard. I've got a good memory. I rose through the ranks and am now a 32nd degree Freemason of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, Southern Jurisdiction, United States of America, WC. And this is the same branch of Freemasonry that Albert Pike belonged to. Let me repeat this. WC. And this is the same branch of Freemasonry that Albert Pike belonged to that created the Ku Klux Klan, the B'nai B'rith, and the branch of the B'nai B'rith called the ADL, or Anti-Defamation League. Is that correct? WM. Absolutely true. Albert Pike is considered to be a demigod among Freemasons, and actually a source of light all on his own. He took the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, which did exist for some time before him. He took it after the Civil War and turned it into what it is today. He incorporated much of the pagan symbology into the degrees that are still used in practice today. His name is revered. I've seen a bigger than life-size bust of complete bronze of Albert Pike that was created for $25,000. Some of that money was mine, by the way. They treat him next to godhood in the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. And that's why, you idiots and morons, back during the riots, remember the riots? Back in 2020 and 2021, the George Floyd riots, remember? That's why you knocked over the statue of Albert Pike. And guess what? They re-erected it again. They put it back up because you ain't doing nothing to a damn statue, you idiots. Let's knock over the statue. Morons and idiots. Morons and idiots. Morons and idiots. WC, this is William Cooper talking now. Were you aware that Albert Pike was in constant communication and in concert with Giuseppe Mazzini in creating, not only creating, but Albert Pike at one time was the sovereign grand commander of all Freemasonry in the world, and operated in concert with Giuseppe Mazzini in control of what we now know is the world body known as the Illuminati. WM, William Morgan talking now. The name Mazzini is familiar to me, and I have come across a connection to the Illuminati in my research, but no, I was not personally aware. And this comes as no surprise, because with the exception of my own personal research, most of my information comes from the archives of the lodges I have participated and visited, or from Freemasons themselves. And all information is questionable at best. I never once, with the exception of one word, have I heard any reference to the Illuminati. Yet my own research points exactly in their direction for the true source of the Masons' power and the reason for their concealment. But no, I did not know about Mazzini. WC. Do the members of the lodge consider themselves to be illumined? WM. All of them do, without even knowing the definition of the term. The true definition of the term. They consider themselves illuminated. They go around, they have that secret little smile, and they generally talk, no, not generally, they always talk down about most of the other people in the world. I've even heard grown men refer to other fellow Americans, brothers, as profane, simply because they have advanced through the ritual of Freemasonry. So look at this. You understand what he's saying here? That even in the lodge, brothers who are higher in the degrees talk shit about the ones who are still in the low levels. They don't even trust each other. They talk shit about each other. And they're calling us profane. Ha! Motherfuck. Unfortunately, a lot of you out there are profane. Oh boy. WC. I remember a friend of mine who was a young man who was not a member of the lodge, but his father was. And he had a friend who belonged to another family who was not a member of the lodge, but owned a small business in town. And his small business was being destroyed by the members of the lodge simply because he was not a Freemason. And that the business was going to members or lodge brothers. And he asked his father why his friend's family was literally being destroyed by his father and others who professed to be members of a fraternal organization existing for the community. And his father told him, and they'll never forget this because it literally crushed my friend. His father told him this: if you are not one of us, you are nothing. Is this generally true? Is this the way Freemasons generally think about people who do not belong to their organization? WM. I have personally seen Masonry interfere with family ties before. And yes, this is just how they look at the world. They consider the world to be profane, unilluminated, and this just goes hand in hand with the general attitude that is conveyed by all Masons, that they are on the road to their own form of godhood, and this manifests itself in severe racism. For all the people out there that may not be too familiar with Masons or Masonry, and this especially goes for members or minority groups who have often and usually continue to be excluded from Freemasonry, and especially for women, I'm here to tell you that you are not welcome in the lodge. You never will be, and you have never have been welcome in the lodge. This especially goes for blacks. In spite of the Prince Hall Masonry, which is the biggest joke and the biggest scam and the biggest insult to any single race I've ever seen, and especially for women, they do not want you, and they consider you totally ineligible to unable to understand what they do. WC. You told me something the other night that I found just incredible. You said that you could go to any Prince Hall Lodge in any black community and the doors would be open to you and you would be welcome. But if one of those members or brothers of the lodge of the Prince Hall Lodge came to your lodge and tried to come in and participate in these ceremonies or whatever you call them, what would happen? WM. It wouldn't happen. It just simply wouldn't happen. I, as a Caucasian Freemasonry, can visit any Prince Hall Lodge in the country, and as far as I know in the world, I can also visit any lodge, period, across the world. I have been told through my initiation that I am welcome in any lodge. But this just does not apply to blacks. No matter that, even if the ritual they go through, and I do not know this for certain, but I know it's similar, but even if the ritual were exact, even if the same form of illumination that they underwent was exact, they could not ever. And I sit in a lodge with Caucasian Freemasons. I have never seen a black Freemason sit in a lodge among Caucasians. And I don't think I will. Equal opportunity and affirmative action laws are just completely ignored and considered frivolous and a joke by all Freemasons. WC. So the New World Order that they are bringing into being is going to be racist? WM. Entirely. It has an Aryan background, and that is where it comes from. WC. And that's been born out of our research. Why then would the black community form their own lodges and support the bringing about a new world order that is going to relegate them back into slavery? And I might add, along with the rest of us who don't belong to this religion. And it is a religion. Why would they participate in something like that? WM. Well, as you've told me yourself, and most people will understand this, the world loves a mystery. And you can control the masses by dangling a secret like a carrot in front of their nose and promising them the answer to that secret if they just merely do what they say and work for you. This, together with man's own fallible, entirely fallible human nature, and the selfishness of man, and the ego of man, they want to be something. They want to be better than the people around them that they see. And since they have been told straight out that they will never advance to the ranks of Caucasian Freemasons, they have settled for just being better than their own people. Let me repeat this to all you muckety mucks out there, Black Prince Hall Freemasons. Shaq. That's right. I'm talking to you, you big fool. Let me repeat this. They have settled for just being better than their own people and excluding other blacks from joining their own lodge. That goes out to you too, Big Lips. And you know who you are. Greatest rapper alive, my ass. Greatest rapper alive died on March 9th. WC. So one of the holds that Freemasonry has over people is that ordinary people, whether they be black, white, oriental, Hispanic, doesn't matter, they want to be part of the elect. Is that true? WM. Exactly. That they want to join the elite. They like to look down on their fellow man. WC. Okay, now if nobody coerced you, if nobody proselytized you, how did you get into the lodge? WM. I went to the door and I knocked on it. It's time for our break. Folks, don't go away. I'll be right back after this very short pause, and so will I. I need to stretch. Oh boy. Oh boy. I like to lower this because I'm never sure if I'm getting feedback. Okay. We're back in the studio, folks, with William Morgan, a Kaji member who has infiltrated the lodge. Now, this man is no dummy. You have to understand, within 2 years, he is risen from entered apprentice to 32nd degree Freemason of the Scottish Rite of the Southern Jurisdiction. Now, that's quite a distinction in the lodge, isn't it? W.M. William Morgan, talking now. Well, yeah, it can be considered as such. It does get a measure of respect from those who never advance past the 3rd degree of Master Mason. W.C. William Cooper. And what is the next step? W.M. After the 32nd degree, there is publicly known only one more degree of Freemasonry, and that is the 33rd degree. W.C. And you said publicly known? Does that mean that there's more? W.M. I suspect that there is. That there really is more. W.C. Do you know that for sure? W.M. No, I do not. I do not know it for sure. I've heard. There's a man by the name of Reverend Jim Shaw who was a 33rd, well, he actually still is by a Masonic law, who still is a 33rd degree Freemason. And when he became a 33rd degree, he knew another Mason who was going through the same ritual, who said he was going to be even further because he had professed a support for the Luciferian doctrine that they preach. W.C. So what you have just said, this is coming from your mouth, a 32nd degree Freemason from the Scottish Rite. You have just said, I didn't prompt you. I didn't ask you the question. In fact, you just surprised me because I was going to lead up to this. But you just said, the Luciferian doctrine. Can you explain that? W.M. I can explain that. Absolutely. Masons believe in light. It is a priority part of their entire ritual. Now, light to a Mason symbolizes knowledge and also intellect. And if you've paid attention to the Mystery School's broadcasts, you know who the patron god of intellect is. It is Lucifer. And in fact, his very name means the Furrier, or the bringer or the bearer of light. Luc is Latin for light, and Fur is Latin for furrier. This is the true god of Freemasonry, and this is also, to my great shame, the god that I knelt at the altar before and swore my blood oath to. W.C. But when you did this, you were aware you were swearing your blood oath to Lucifer and not to the God of the Christian Bible? W.M. Absolutely not. Everything about Masonry says and publicly said that their God is the same God as any God. The God of Hindus, the God of Arab, the God of Christians, but it's just not so. It's a lie and it's a scam. And all you do is study paganism, nature worship, and the mystery religion of Babylon to see who that real God is. W.C. So you have done this study on your own, and you've checked out the publications and the doctrines and the symbology within your own lodge, and you have arrived at the conclusion that the God of Freemasonry is who? W.M. The God of Freemasonry is Lucifer, who is actually Satan, cast from heaven for one specific reason, and that is because he, like many other Masons, sought to attain godhood in his own time. WC. And isn't that really the goal of Freemasonry? By their works, they will become God? WM. Exactly. It is a matter of works. Salvation has nothing to do with it. There is no repentance of sin. And in their minds, mankind was never separated from God, but is able to be an equal to or superior to God. WC. Now, mind you, folks, I sincerely believe in the Constitution of the United States of America. This is not a religious program, irregardless of what you may think you are hearing. And I'm not making judgment on any of this whatsoever. I believe that anyone has the right under our Constitution to worship at any altar that they wish to worship at. I do not agree with this Luciferian doctrine. I do not worship at that altar. The only thing that bothers me in the performance of their religion is that they're attempting to control and manipulate the rest of us into a one world totalitarian socialist government with a one world religion that we will all have to bow down to, with Lucifer or Satan as the head of the religion, actually incarnated in the human body. They intend to install Lucifer upon the throne of the world. Have you found any credence for this? WM. I found great credence for this. And the best place to go to confirm this is just pick up the book Morals. Pick up the book Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike. He himself will state, number one, that Masonry is a religion, and number two, that Lucifer is involved. That is all I needed to confirm my suspicions, and it should be all that is needed to confirm the suspicions of all the other Masons that are out there wandering in darkness, thinking that they are living in illumination. WC. So most Freemasons, do they really believe that Freemasonry is a Christian organization? WM. No, they really don't. They may themselves be Christians, and most in America are, but it is a strict rule and law of the lodge, written their own constitutions, that no discussions or debates concerning religion or politics ever be brought into the lodge. They do not want your Christianity broadcast. They do not want it meant at all. They do not want it mentioned at all. In fact, I had a personal friend of mine who was a police officer in the lodge. Listen to this very carefully. Now you will understand why so many of the pigs, that's what I call them, are behaving and acting the way they are to the citizens. Listen. I had a personal friend of mine who was a police officer in the lodge of which I'm a member, and when he was asked to whom he put his trust, he said, the Lord Jesus Christ. And from that day forward, even though he's a law enforcement officer and vitally important to the New World Order, he has been ostracized and he has been left out of many of the activities that got me to where I am in the craft today. And I do not think that he will ever be allowed to progress any farther because of that. And then you're wondering why the police are acting worse than criminals. Because that's who they are hiring. Tattooed, dictatorial, Hitlerites, Nazi types. Don't take my word for it. Go to the channel here on YouTube called Police Activity. Watch it with your own eyes, how they shoot and kill. Not everybody, but a lot of innocent people for absolutely no reason. They have infiltrated every aspect of our society. If it looks like a National Socialist, walks like a National Socialist, acts like a National Socialist, it's because it is a National Socialist, a Nazi. WC, in fact, I think you told me the other night that that was the first time that you ever heard the name of Jesus Christ mentioned in that lodge ever. And is that true? WM. Absolutely. Or any other lodge or any Masonic publication or any writing or even any words out of another Freemason's mouth. It is just not part of their vocabulary. In fact, I have very firm beliefs that the name itself brings actual pain to their ears. WC. Now, we know that the lodge will welcome anyone who attends any church, synagogue, temple, cathedral that belongs to any religion whatsoever. But we know that Freemasonry is a religion because we've studied it, and we have people like you who are a Freemason at a very high degree and have confirmed it, and their own writing confirms it. Albert Pike has stated in writing in his book, Morals and Dogma, and in others of his writings, I might add, and Manly P. Hall has confirmed that. So if Freemasonry is a religion, yet they accept members, people who go to other churches in the community and many different religions that have doctrines that don't agree at all, how can they rectify? I mean, how can you explain this? How can this be? WM. It just is. And any Mason that holds that his religious convictions dear, let me repeat this. It just is. And any Mason that holds that his religious convictions dear and becomes a member of the lodge is in direct conflict with his own beliefs and his own faith. The two cannot go together, have never been able to go together, and I don't think they ever will be. And I'd like to ask all of my, I'd like to tell all of my brothers in the lodges out there, how can you possibly believe that Freemasonry is not a religion? You meet in a Masonic temple. You knelt at a Masonic altar with the Holy Bible, or in other countries, a different holy book, Quran, or many other texts. You knelt there and swore your blood oath blood oaths in the name of a deity, and quiet respect is demanded in any and all lodges all over the world, just like in any temple. You have been living a lie, and if you don't wake up pretty soon, the New World Order will turn around and eat your lunch for you. WC, isn't it a fact that they believe they are going to be an integral part of this New World Order? However, most of them will not be. WM, this is the great joke. This is the punchline to the whole affair. They believe and see themselves as the priests and the priesthood of the New World Order. They think that when all things start falling apart, that they are going to be the ones that rise up, phoenix-like, out of the ashes, bring the world together, and deliver them into the hands of Lucifer. Like I said, they consider themselves builders, and what they're building is the New World Order. And it's being erected like a prison around us, even as we speak. And the capstone, and you ought to look at the Great Seal of the United States to get a feel for this, the capstone of the New World Order of the building that they are creating is actually Lucifer himself. WC. And isn't that the symbol of Lucifer? The all-seeing eye above the pyramid? The symbol of light? It actually began as the symbol of the sun, which was the symbol of the light, which was the symbol for Lucifer. And over the years, it evolved into an eye. Christians are told that this is the eye of God, but nobody ever bothers to ask which God or who. WM. Right. WC. What's the name of this God? And you know, if a Muslim were to ask in the Middle East, that they would say it's the eye of God, and they would think it's the eye of Allah. And in the Far East, somebody might think it was the eye of Buddha. But this is never explained. In effect, it really began representing the sun. It became the eye. The sun has always been the representation of wisdom, or the intellect, or knowledge, which is all the Luciferian doctrine. It is the symbol for the light. Lucifer, the fallen angel, the Luciferian philosophy. WM. These are facts. This is just the way it is. I'm holding in my hand at this very moment an official Masonic medallion that is handed out to many Masons as a gift, especially at Entered Apprentice. At the very top, and taking up the main position in this medallion, is the all-seeing eye. And this eye is, just as Bill Cooper has said, a combination of the eye of God. And I stress that quote, unquote, more than the other. And also, it is the sun. It is a symbol of sun worship. The eye that I'm seeing, the lashes on the eye, on this medallion that I am holding, are actually the rays of the sun coming down to illuminate the fellow Masons. It is more than just a religion, as Albert Pike has professed. It is the oldest known religion. It is a pagan religion of sun worship. It is a nature worship, and it is incredibly dangerous to free-loving people everywhere. WC, William Cooper talking now. You wanted to read something from a book that you have there. This is a book that I highly recommend, that everybody in the listening audience must read this book. You must read this book. You can find it at most religious bookstores, Christian or otherwise. They usually stock it. It's called The God Makers. The God Makers by Ed Decker and Dave Hunt. And let me see who the publishers are. Harvest House Publishers, Eugene, Oregon, 97402. That's Harvest House Publishers, Eugene, Oregon, 97402. Again, the name of the book is The God Makers by Ed Decker and Dave Hunt. This book will truly open your eyes. You wanted to read something from that book? WM, William Morgan talking now. Yes, sir. I was reading this last night, and it just stopped me in my tracks. I'm on page 60 of The God Makers, and the chapter entitled The Mormon Dilemma. And this book is about the Mormons. And once you begin reading, you'll see through the mystery schools just how close Freemasonry, and Mormonism actually is. The subtitle of this part is called The Pagan Connection. And again, I'll read it quickly. As C.S. Lewis and a number of other experts have concluded, there are only two religions in the world. Christianity and Hinduism, paganism. One teaches that we are separated from the one true God by sin, and that God became a man to die for our sins. The other declared that men are not separated from God, but that each person has within himself the power to overcome evil and thus to become God, or at least a God with a small g. Hinduism, and this is not my opinion, in here, it's in quotes here, paganism. Hinduism, paganism, embraces and absorbs everything except biblical Christianity, which is its own genuine rival. Though it uses Christian language to disguise its paganism, just as many Masonic lodges do, Mormonism is less Christian than it is Hindu. The basic dilemma faced by every Mormon is the direct result of its Hindu roots. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna declares that he comes forth to save the righteous and to condemn the sinner. This is exactly the opposite of the biblical Christ who saves sinners. The great complaint of paganism and all occult secret societies, of which I am presently a member, is that whereas one must be worthy to join them, Christianity deliberately embraces the unworthy. And to prove my worthiness to join the lodge, I had to ask them to become a member. At the time that I joined, it was against the Constitution's bylaw, the Constitution of Freemasonry. I must stress for any Mason to come to me, a profane, and ask me to join. W.C. William Cooper talking now. And in effect, actually, isn't the Mormon Church just another branch of the old mystery religion of Babylon? W.M. William Morgan talking. It can be nothing else. They have 3 degrees. They have rituals they adhere to. They're sworn to secrecy with blood oaths inside of a temple. They have a structural hierarchy that is in the structure of pyramid. And all of those that are initiated into the temple ritual seek nothing else but to climb the pyramid. The reward, the carrot that is dangled in front of their nose to keep them working hard, is that they will experience and attain godhood for themselves. W.C. And many of the rituals that are practiced in the temple are the exact same rituals that are practiced in the Masonic temple? William Morgan talking now. I cannot personally confirm this, but the research that I am involved in at this time supports this, and also the research of experts who are far better and far more along in their work than I am totally supports this claim. And you should verify it for yourself. W.C. Absolutely. You know, the warning we always give them on this show. Don't believe anything you hear on this show or any other show or from the president, Dan Rather, anyone until you check it out. That's not saying that Dan Rather was the president. It says the president, comma, Dan Rather, a guy who used to be a reporter. He's dead now, I think. Anyone until you check it out for yourself. One thing that I also wanted to mention is that we have nothing against anyone. We have nothing against people who want to worship in the Mormon religion or the Catholic religion or go to a temple and worship Buddha. We believe in the Constitution, but we also believe that everyone should know what they're getting into. We also believe that if these people are involved in subverting the freedoms of others and bringing about a one world totalitarian socialist government, which we have confirmed that they are, then it is our business and our duty to stop them. W.M. William Morgan talking now. Bingo, Bill. And hit upon something that is a catch-22 for all Masons. Part of the blood oath says that you can never and you must swear this on penalty of very painful and bloody death, that you will never, ever, release any of the secrets of masonry to a member of the profane, to somebody out there in the big world. But when you become a Mason, and as I did, I always ask questions wherever I go. I asked some hard questions and I got nothing. There were no answers forthcoming. They looked me straight in the eye and said, "I can't tell you." WC, how do you rectify what you're doing on this show with the oaths that you took saying that you can't do this? WM, well, we've discussed this, and I have had some personal dilemmas that I had to face. But I genuinely believe that when they do not tell me the whole truth about what I'm getting into, in fact, when they deliberately mislead me and deceive me about what I'm getting into, that must totally invalidate the contract or the oath which I have sworn. It just cannot be any other way. They have lied, and I have been honest, and I have been forthcoming to them, but they have not returned it as such. WC. And I found myself in the same position, folks, because when I was in the military, and specifically with the Office of Naval Intelligence, I had to sign security oaths saying that I would never talk about anything that I was involved with. But later, when I began to realize that I was going to have to, I also understood that the only things that I would talk about were those things that the intelligence community, the military, those in government were doing to destroy the sovereignty of the United States of America, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and to bring about really a traitorous new government, the New World Order, and that I was not going to be involved in any traitorous activity. And my first and only loyalty was to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights of the United States, and not to some phony manipulation called a security oath, which many people are trapped under, thinking that they cannot talk about many of the things they participated in that are actually destroying this nation, destroying the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. These people are traitors, and I could not be a traitor, nor will I ever be. What do you feel about this new world order that's coming? WM, it makes me want to vomit. You're absolutely right. They are traitors. They have turned their backs on their people. They have turned their backs on their country. They have turned their backs on their family. They're living a lie, and it's not going to turn out exactly how they think. They are like the cops. Woo! And I'm going to change it. I'm going to say this. They are the cops, baby. They are like the cops, the police officers in America that are deliberately destroying the Constitution and treating their own people as the enemy. Let me repeat this, baby. Let me repeat this. They are like the cops, the police officers in America that are deliberately destroying the Constitution and treating their own people as an enemy. They can't be a cop forever. Neither can you be a practicing Mason forever. One day that protection that you cherish so much must end. And when it does, it will turn around and it will gobble you up like it's gobbling up so many people right now. WC, William Cooper talking now. Well, not only that, but many Americans are waking up. The patriots in this country, the people who really understand and love the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, are going to have an awful lot to say about what's happening. And of course, there are other people like me, like you. We have the largest civilian intelligence gathering organization in the world operating full time, breaking this secrecy down, bringing together the truth. And now we're running out of time for another episode of the Hour of the Time, folks. I want you to remember We love you, and we care about you, or we wouldn't be doing this. Good night. God bless you, and remember this. And he plays a song at the end. Next stream, William Morgan interview, part 2. Oh, boy. All right. And I'm being serious, man. A lot of these pigs committing these criminal activity against us, the citizens, are themselves Freemasons or members of other secret societies. They're doing what they're doing on purpose. They're bringing chaos. To understand what they're doing right now, for those of you who need an example, who need it visually told to you, I want you to watch a film. And I can tell you many times I watched this movie. You need to watch the movie Invasion USA with Chuck Norris. You need to watch this movie Invasion USA with Chuck Norris. In the film, socialist pigs go around dressed up as police officers, attacking the citizens, so that the citizens then attack back till things get so chaotic that the government has to go into martial law. This is what socialist pigs do. They start trouble. They pretend to be, or in this case, infiltrate things so they can cause chaos, bring about chaos. Because they know that then there will be no other option but to bring in martial law. You have to watch the movie Invasion USA with Chuck Norris. Okay, let me see. What am I going to play as outro music? Yeah, let me play something different. Let's see what we got here.
Yo, that fucking E&J, man. I got it home. I might have to grab.
What is the most important thing in life? What's the most important thing? Respect. Too dependent on other people.
What, love?
A little Disneyland, isn't it?
God's will.
Listen to the lyrics.
You're just a glimpse in my rear view. My rhymes lifetimes ahead of you. Pen and page till it's bulletproof. My notebook's the crime scene taped up in Pro Tools. iTunes, the prison, the bars is soul food. The mic's the murder weapon, out the speakers, the blood ooze. Lyrics called memories, becoming mental tattoos. Record stores and cemeteries with labels buried fools. They advances is proof of who really worked for who. Competing with pussies faker than the YouTube views. They paying for spins, but ain't never pay no dues. Common ciphers with vipers, vampires, and wannabes. The darkness that travels in the shadows of democracy. Candles on the corner where the coroner bagged them. Live surrounded by savages with 4-4 magnums. MC supremacy, the master of toe tagging. Assassinate the verse, 16 out the ratchet.
What you see is just a illusion.